welcome back to Family Art Project's Depth and Distance series. Today we are thinking about making our marks somewhere. So we're going to be using natural materials. In this case, we're going to be using leaves to make our own marks being responsive to the natural materials that we're using. You're going to join me in creating a mobile out of the natural materials and seeing what kind of marks we can make by being responsive to the materials that we have. And we're also going to join Ryan in creating a paintbrush from natural materials and making marks that way. So as we make our marks today, we're going to be considering the theme of responsiveness, how to be responsive in the marks that we make in the world. So when I think of what responsive means to nature, I think of geese who either fly in a V or geese who bob in the water in a line so that the goose behind them can have an easier time and doesn't have to push against the resistance of the water. That is geese being very responsive to their environment. So responsiveness implies thoughtful action, and it really considers the elements, the environment, to make informed decisions or to make informed actions, being responsive to see what kind of mark you want to make in the world. So as we think about the kind of marks we want to make in the world, we're going to be creating art that is responsive. Remember, that's very thoughtful and intentional to the materials that we're using. So let's go ahead and get started by finding our materials. For the first part of the project, we're going to rethink how to create a mark by being responsive to the natural materials we have access to. In art, mark making is a way of evoking emotion or illustrating gesture. We are going to look at how natural materials we find can have marks made on them based on the plant's properties and using the plant's chlorophyll. Since today is all about understanding how the marks we make in the world can be responsive with care and attention to what is going on in the world around us, I will definitely be considering how I am responsive to nature as I gather materials. I will ask nature and listen deeply to see if what I gather is all right for me to take. You'll see I am at my local park in a woodsy area finding plants that are growing abundantly and rapidly. I will never take all the leaves from one plant and only take what I need. One example of being responsive to nature is seeing these berries and thinking I could make some really cool prints with the dye. I got so excited when I saw them. But I took a moment and asked nature if these berries were okay for me to take to be responsive. And when I take a moment to listen, I hear birds chirping and am reminded that they need these berries. So I look further and see that not all of the berries are ripe yet. These very juicy ones are the only select few. So I won't take these berries for now because I think the birds will need them. I did find this dockweed growing quite abundantly and drying up, and the woody stem is going to be a great base for my mobile. Another example of me hearing nature telling me that I should not take is this thistle. This thistle is so gorgeous, but because I know the time of year, and I can see that some of the thistle's dispersing, but not all quite yet, I know that monarchs who pollinate thistle will be coming in August on their way to Mexico, and I want to make sure that they have enough nectar for their journey. This thistle isn't for me to use, it's for the monarchs. You see, just by paying attention to the cycles and sounds and details around you, you can be very responsive to what nature has to teach you. Now that we have our materials, we're going to work with the chemical composition of the leaves to create marks. We're making marks in response to leaves' properties by playing around with the chlorophyll in the leaf. The chlorophyll is what gives the plant the ability to photosynthesize. The chlorophyll is how a plant gets its energy. We're going to be making marks by actually washing away the chlorophyll. You can do this by either soaking plants for 2 weeks in water, or like I did, you can quicken the process by using washing soda. So that's not baking soda, make sure it's washing soda, and it's found at the laundry section. And you just boil hot water for about an hour with the washing soda with the plants, keep them boiled, and once you're done, you'll take an old toothbrush and gently brush away the pulp that should very easily slide off. You can be more gentle with this, or you can, like me, just kind of scratch away at the pulp without too much rhyme or reason. Another step, if you'd like to continue playing around with the chemistry of the plant, is to use bleaching. You can do this by putting your plant under a glass frame and let it sit under the sun for a few days. Or if you have a mask and gloves and a space with lots of windows and definitely an adult to help you use the bleach to dye the leaves, then you can do so with this bleach mixture. Be so careful in doing this. Bleach is not natural like these leaves are and can be very bad for you if you touch it or breathe it in. So please do this step with extreme caution, and remember that this is just a fast process that the sun can do for you if you leave it under a frame. So most definitely work with an adult who has experience with bleach if you do this step. I added an extra step and preserved my leaves with wax, and you can do this from melting crayons or candles or beeswax. That's all optional. You can certainly have these leaves as is and watch them slowly decay. The next step is to assemble our natural mark makers in a mobile. A mobile is an object you often see hanging from baby cribs. They're awesome for babies because they ignite babies' imagination and get them thinking and wandering. But mobiles also don't have to just be for babies. We can have mobiles for ourselves to visualize the marks that we've been making and the marks we wish to make through being responsive. So let's ignite our own imagination as we create these mobiles. You can see I haven't quite finished my mobile. It's quite a process to sew each leaf onto the mobile. You can certainly just tie them using the stem of the leaf. But I think I'll continue working on my mobile slowly but surely. Now let's see how Ryan's contribution can add to the mobile.
We're going to be making a mark making tool that will look like a paintbrush, and the mark making tool that we'll make is going to be using natural materials and some cardboard. One of the challenges of making a mark making tool using natural materials is that it doesn't always hold up well. So what I'm going to walk you through is a way to make the brush and for it to hold up for you to use a few times before it starts to wear out and you can't use it as well. The first thing that we're going to do to make our brush is create some bristles. All brushes have bristles to put the paint on for it to be put on the surface. For my bristles, I'm cutting off stems of leaves that I have around my home. These leaves are dried out avocado leaves, a calathea plant, and just a few mix of different kinds of leaves. So I'm cutting as many as I can, and I have about 10 to 12 or so. Next, we need the body of the brush. I have some cardboard here. I'm going to use something sturdy because, again, we want this to be able to be used a few times. So cardboard is a pretty good sturdy surface, and we're going to cut a thin strip for the part where we hold the brush. The next step is to cut the part of the brush that's going to hold the bristles. If you've seen a brush before, there's typically a small metal part that has a bit of a semicircle shape to it, and it's semicircle because the top part of the brush is sometimes longer than other parts. Some parts of it is shorter, so a semicircle shape will give us the chance to make a circle brush at the top, or a semicircle kind of brush. And we're going to cut out 2 of those shapes because we want a front and a back side for the bristles or our stems to slide in between. I have hot glue here to hold it down. You could use tape if you don't have strong glue. It doesn't have to be hot glue either. It can be really any kind of glue I think will hold. We'll glue the first side of that semicircle onto the edge of our long strip of cardboard. Then from there, we can start putting our bristles onto our brush. But I want to align the bristles from smallest to tallest because I'm going to put the smallest towards the middle of our brush and the tallest towards the outside. With that semicircle shape, the outside bristles are going to appear a bit shorter, so we want a long bristle to match what's going to go at the top of our brush. And now we'll add the stems of our leaves to be bristles. Now that we have our stems as bristles hot glued down to our semicircle, we can add the other semicircle on top with hot glue. And we'll give it a good press for it to be tight. And there's our brush. Very simple, but also very functional. Now, of course, we want to see what kind of marks it can make, because that's what we want to make, a unique brush that can make unique marks. So I've laid out some colors and I'm starting to paint. And these marks, I think of them as abstract mark making. And that's it for this activity. Whether you've watched our previous depth and distance videos or this is your first time joining, we always encourage you to find materials around your home and see if you can make a different mark making tool. A part of what we've provided are just some guidelines that might help you think a bit outside of the box and the structure and how to make it come to life. If you do make anything, we'd really love it if you shared it with us. And you can do so by posting it on your social media and tagging Wave Hill and use the hashtag depth and distance. Thank you again, and until the next video.